You're listening to the Leaping Cholla podcast recorded in the Wrong Mountain Yurt in the Sonoran Desert.
I am falling away from this world. I am falling away from this world. You are calling me.
Good evening. Leaping Cholla podcast, reading contributions to philosophy the event. Oh, I messaged a Facebook page today. They have it's called philosophy something. They have 750,000 followers.
Jeez.
I messaged them and said, we do a podcast about Heidegger. Could you feature us? And
Yeah?
I haven't heard back from them.
Jeez.
But I only messaged them 8 hours ago, so.
Wait, you didn't send me the link to that?
No, I
see a
didn't.
link
I
to
didn't
it.
say I sent you a link to
Oh,
that.
I thought you said you did.
No,
You found it.
Yeah, I found them and I messaged them. So
Cool. Way to go.
So I thought maybe we should start to promote things, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And let the world know. There's a whole
Absolutely.
philosophy world. This Facebook page has 750,000
That's
followers.
crazy.
And it's dedicated to philosophy. So that's kind of encouraging.
Yeah.
Not that this is a philosophy podcast, but
What is this?
oh, what is this? I think it's a home journal. An off-the-grid home journal. So speaking of which, we should small talk a little bit. Our well, about a week ago, we started experiencing, I would say, about half water pressure. Half of what it was. So the first thing I did was I went around the house, all around, and made sure there was no cracked pipe where the water was kind of pouring out and therefore diminishing the pressure. There was not. So I called the well company. The well guy came out. Now, for the record, our well goes down 450 feet into the earth to an aquifer down there. He pulled some things off and uncapped the well and opened it up, and sure enough, it was, as he said, pissing water. It was just kind of, the water was just kind of dribbling out. I said, what is it, doctor? He said, you have a hole in the pipe. So the 450-foot well, they dig 450 feet down through the rock. Incredible, first of all. Then they drop 20-foot pipes down there until they have stacked enough pipes up so that some pipe sticks up out of the ground.
Oh, I see.
And those pipes are steel, and therefore they rust. And I'm like, well, that's kind of who
It's a bad decision, yeah.
Who decided that? But I don't know. And apparently they rust, and occasionally one of them gets a hole in it. And so they have to come. They're coming out next week, and they're going to pull these 20-foot pipes out of there one at a time until they find the one with the hole.
Wow.
And actually they're going to pull them. I think they're going to pull them all out because they're putting in a new pump. And the well pump is actually at the bottom of all these pipes. So the well pump is down in the water, pumping water out to our house.
It's incredible.
It's really amazing. Pricey. But, it's a miracle that you can just drill into the ground like that and get water for your home.
It is.
Anyhow, well problems. I thought that thing was going through my mind today. It was live off the grid, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Yeah.
It's but your well breaks and you have to drop $8,000 to fix it, It's wow.
Totally.
And now and then you hear from neighbors that their well went dry.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Now, if your well goes dry, you only have two options. You pay to ship water to your house, which
No one does that.
you can do that. I don't know anybody who does that, but you can have a water truck show up. Or you drill another well. But it's $50,000 to drill a well out here where we live. In some places you drill 10 feet down, you hit water.
Oh, yeah.
Our neighbors over there, Their well is 700 feet down.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It's crazy. Anyhow, but we have to keep the family alive. Water is the basis of life, so we need water. Yeah, any feedback? This is a home journal.
I don't know how I feel about calling it a home journal.
Well, what is it?
I don't know. I like to think it's philosophy.
Women's lifestyle blog.
Good housekeeping?
Good housekeeping, exactly.
No, it's a cooking
I think it's a
diary.
parenting. I think it's obviously a parenting podcast. In a very subtle way. We don't talk specifically about our children very often, but in a certain way, it's trying to figure out how to be good parents.
Yeah.
How to raise good children. Maybe?
Sure.
Do you have any small talk, farm girl?
No, I don't.
No?
No, I was just looking.
You gotta point your mouth at the microphone. The microphone is literally pointing at your ear.
I was just looking at my notes from last time, and I have underlined what's the meaning of life.
That's because last time I exposed it. I revealed the meaning of life.
I know, but that's the thing. I didn't write down the answer. So I was wondering if you could review. Summarize.
I forget. No, I forget.
No, you're saying that like...
You don't remember what I said the meaning of life was? Meaning of life.
Is engaging in meaning?
No, the meaning of life is time.
Is time. Yeah, right.
Anyhow, I'm glad my words have an impact.
No, you're right. So, but how, because I remember we were talking about how with anxiety or memory loss, it's like the loss of time. It's like only in the present, and you
Right.
lose sort of the meaning of time, I guess.
Right.
So then what is it like to live in time? Like what features?
It's like this. We're doing it. Here it is. What's it like? It's not like anything. It just is.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Sure. We can revisit it later too, perhaps. We can revisit it later too, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess you know where we are in the book?
I do.
I think this is actually an insomnia podcast. It's to help us go to sleep. Help others go to sleep.
You mean to help us not go to sleep? Because I feel like we always get worked up after this, and it's hard to go to sleep.
And I have tea, and I'm awake, and we get to bed.
Tea.
We get to bed later than we normally do.
So it is an insomnia podcast to help us stay up.
Yeah. Okay. Where are we?
Page. Geez, what page is it? I kind of wrote over it, so I'm not really sure what page number it is. Oh, 78. Page 78. We're like partway through the section. 45.
Well, what's the first sentence that we're going to read?
Oh, actually. Oh,
think
should we
it's
just start at prospect?
I think it's 77.
Let's start where it says prospect, maybe.
Prospect? Where does it say prospect?
Oh, never mind. Sorry, that's never mind. Almost every page says prospect, and apparently I never noticed.
I think that
it says, does the decision once again bring about the grounding of the site?
Exactly.
That's where we start.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly right. We agree. Yeah, that's right. So we're in the middle of this
45.
is section 45 on page 77 in my app. And is it 77 in your book or
78?
Okay. Yeah. So maybe we should just get going.
Yeah, sounds good.
Great.
Does the decision
The microphone is now pointing at your eyes.
How did my eyes sound?
I don't know. Okay, I think that's good.
It just moves back up when I push it
I
down.
don't know if that's true.
Okay.
I think it could be pointed lower. Well,
not trying to move it like that. It's you need a better stand.
Higher. Okay. I think you're good.
Thank you.
All right. Technical difficulties, but we're back. Go ahead.
Does the decision once again bring about the grounding of the sight of the moment for the sake of the grounding of the truth of beyng? Or does everything simply roll on as, quote, battle over the bare conditions of surviving and thriving in gigantic proportions, such that, quote, worldview and, quote, culture are also only supports and resources of this, quote, battle? What is prepared then is the transition to the technologized animal, the one that through the gigantism of technology is beginning to replace the instincts which are already becoming weaker and coarser. Wow, it's starting with a bang.
Techno-fascists.
Yeah, right?
It's the new phrase. So I think this is a distinction here that Heidegger's making that elucidates his preference, and I think his preference is the first one. I mean, maybe preference. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say what Heidegger prefers. But does the decision once again bring about the grounding of the sight of the moment for the sake of the grounding of the truth of beyng, which I would say is what he would call a inceptual decision or a Dasein-based decision. So a decision that grounds a sight of the moment that can ground the truth of beyng. That's sort of what decision in a very robust and Heideggerian sense would be. Or does everything simply roll on as battle over the bare conditions of surviving and thriving? So, or is
surviving and thriving is like such a contemporary phrase.
Yeah.
Or thriving, I don't know. It's like,
yeah. Or is it just that we're just like running around making decisions, trying to survive and thrive and manifest our preferences in gigantic proportions, such that worldview and culture are also only supports and resources of this battle. Worldview and culture being kind of neutered ideological thought spaces where just things are juggled and battled over. What is prepared then, in this case in which worldview and culture are just supports and resources of this battle, what is prepared in that case is the transition to the technologized animal. The one that, through the gigantism of technology, is beginning to replace the instincts, which are already becoming weaker and coarser. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, Martin, but we're pretty far along on that path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to choose to say that, I don't think the technologized animal in the gigantism of technology means that that a decision in the form of grounding the sight for the grounding of the truth of beyng are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this is like the one spot where it feels like the actual time in which the book is written kind of comes apparent, because that was sort of like maybe really just the emergence of technology, and maybe
exactly. I mean,
and now we're all like
talking about radio.
yeah. Now we're like all so in technology. I'm not sure it quite means the same thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally. I do think that it would be interesting to continue to try to parse out any relevancies that what Heidegger is talking about has even for us still. And I mean, I definitely think that, if the technologized animal is the one that rolls on as battle, the one that participates in a life that rolls on as battle over the bare conditions of surviving and thriving, and uses worldview and culture to support that battle, and replaces the instincts with this technologized state of mind. then I think that to me sounds a little bit like, there's ways to be supplanted and replaced by technology. There's ways that technology can replace the instincts, as he says here. And there's ways that technology cannot. So there's ways of being absorbed into and subsumed by technology. And there's ways of not being. I mean, technology is a tool. It's a very complicated tool, but it's a tool. But what is this? What kind of person? Not what kind of person, but what perspective? What form of decision making supports this battle, this worldview, this culture of the technologized animal, and what doesn't? I think it's worth continuing to think about that, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. He says the technologized animal and not like, and then it makes me think of that guy whose first line of a book was, "We are animals."
Oh, man is an animal. Yeah, that's Becker.
Becker. Yeah. So he's a technologized animal as opposed to like, technologized human or being or does. Like he kind of is putting it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's echoing Aristotle's the reasoning animal. And the technologized animal is like the next step in that. But I think, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we should leave it here. Leave it here. But I will say one thing is that my sense is that I have a sense for people in my life or people I see or know who I think have become technologized animals, that technology is, or they are using technology in a way that has replaced their instincts, where they're using culture and worldview to wage a battle through technology and through the gigantism of technology. I would almost just kind of call that liberalism, in a very broad sense. Now, obviously, I mean, in a narrow sense, just politically, liberals and conservatives, whatever, they all use technology. But there's something, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it.
What is it?
Well, when he says technologized here, I think we immediately jump to this idea of like the internet.
Yeah.
And databases and AI and coding. But I'm not sure that's actually right, because frankly, the internet and AI and databases, these are digital tools.
Yeah.
You can make of them what you will. You can integrate what they are and have to say and what they mean and how they can control you into your life in varying degrees. And I think in a certain sense we've talked a little bit about this in the way that like but I think technologized here might be something much kind of more subtle and broader than just using the internet and AI. I think it's a word. Technologized here is a word that implies that one has given over one's motives, instincts, purposes, and passions for truth to a gigantic worldview or a gigantic cultural battle, and one's kind of immediate, personal, common sense, basic instinctual self is erased or subsumed or replaced is the word that Heidegger uses, and one becomes an agent or a drone in the battle for the culture or the worldview.
Yeah.
And the reason I say liberal there is that, and in that sense, I would say I'm not opposing liberalism to conservatism. I'm opposing culture war. I mean, right, we call them the culture wars. Here he uses the word culture and battle, but it's the same thing. It's culture wars. Now, conservatives participate in culture wars as well. But when I say liberal, what I mean is liberal and like non-liberal. Like, I don't know, there's like a second category that's not just traditional conservatism. It's liberalism in the broader sense of like technological progress consciousness, I guess, or I don't know. I guess I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it, but there's something about turning over one's sense of meaning and motivation and instinct to a technologized worldview and living in service of it.
Yeah.
That's enough.
What characterizes this direction of decision is not the technologizing of, quote, culture and the imposition of a, quote, worldview, but is the fact that, quote, culture and, quote, worldview become resources of a battlefield technology for the sake of a will that no longer wills any goal. For the preservation of the people is never a possible goal, but is only a condition of the setting of a goal. If the condition turns into something unconditioned, however, then what comes to power is the not willing of goals, the cutting off of all expansive meditation. What then disappears completely is the possibility of knowing that, quote, culture and, quote, worldview are already the scions of a world order which presumably is to be overcome. Quote, culture and, quote, worldview do not lose their character by being brought into political service, whether they are taken as values, quote, in themselves, end quote, or as values, quote, for the people. In either case, meditation, if it is such at all, is entirely forced into the not willing of original goals, i.e., a not willing of the truth of beyng. Yet only in that truth is a decision reached about the possibility and necessity of, quote, culture and, quote, worldview.
Okay, so he kind of, I mean, this is worth talking about. Right?
Yeah.
So he kind of starts trying to, I mean, he does it better than I. He's trying to explain what he just said. So I think we need to cut it. We need to figure it out, right? What characterizes this direction of decision, so meaning this the worldview battle, culture battle, is not the technologizing of culture and the imposition of a worldview. So he's almost saying what I said here, which is that, you know, it's not that there's an internet and that culture has become technologized, or that a worldview is being imposed via those things like in the internet or AI. But what characterizes this direction of decision is the fact that culture and worldview become resources of a battlefield technology for the sake of a will that no longer wills any goal. So it's a will that no longer wills any goal. It's just a will that uses a battlefield technology, or the resources of a battlefield technology. It uses culture and worldview as resources in a battlefield technology. in a technology of war, in a technology of battle, of winning. For the preservation of the people is never a possible goal, but is only a condition of the setting of a goal. So preserving a people is never you can't for the preservation of the people is never a possible goal, but is only a condition of the setting of a goal. I don't know. I guess the way I would put that is that preserving a people is not a goal. You can't have the goal of preserving a people. Instead, the preservation of the people is a condition whereby a goal is set. Now, why is the preservation of the people never a possible goal? I mean, I would say that to preserve, if preserving a people is your goal, you're kind of not going to preserve them. I mean, because the preservation of a people, I mean, leave aside the idea of like saving a people from
The
ultimate
Holocaust.
destruction. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, that's the preservation of a people. But I mean, yeah, okay, you brought it up. I think it's a good metaphor. Like, think of the Jews. The preservation of the Jews is not really it's not a goal. It's not like you go about
You can't
thinking
set that as a goal.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you go about thinking we need to preserve the Jews. Rather, the preservation of the Jews is a condition whereby goals are set. So the goal is set to have more Jewish children, have a Jewish state, practice Jewish traditions, understand Jewish history. You know what I mean? And all that is about preserving the people. But you don't just go about saying we're going to preserve the Jewish people, because there's no there there. There's no there there.
There's not an action item.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so really this battlefield technology in which culture and worldview are resources, right, become in a sense the goal, where the preservation of the people is the condition that allows that the setting of that goal. If the condition turns into something unconditioned, however, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm going to look for it in a second. If the condition turns into something unconditioned, however, then what comes to power is not the willing of goals, the cutting off of all, is the not willing of goals. I see. Yeah. The cutting off of all expansive meditation. So if the condition turns into something unconditioned, what do you think he means by that? I mean,
Well, the condition right before was the condition of setting a goal. I thought he was referencing that.
the condition of the setting of a goal is that we must have this in order to set a goal.
Yeah. Like the
But
preservation.
if the condition
of the
turns
goal.
into something unconditioned, and it's weird. I normally think of the word as unconditional, but unconditioned.
The condition. It's almost like if the condition is almost like the if then, if the if or something. Condition.
Say that again.
What does he mean by condition? What does he
mean by condition?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the preservation of the people is never a possible goal, but is only a condition of the setting. So a condition in this sense is it's a necessary antecedent.
Yeah, right.
So
Very good.
we need the preservation of the people as a condition,
Right.
in a sense, a goal, or just that's a given.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given objective. We know that's there. And so we're going to set other goals that feed that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if this condition, so let's call it this antecedent given, turns into something unconditioned, so it's ungiven. It's not necessarily even really a goal. It's not even really necessarily a substrata of goal making. Then what comes to power is the not willing of goals. So that makes sense. If the preservation of the people is a condition that enables the setting of goals,
Oh, yeah.
then if the preservation of the people stops being a condition, then what comes into power is the not willing of goals. So now now who's in power is the not willing of goals, the cutting off of all expansive meditation. I mean, okay, I do have something to say about that. It's very political, but we'll move on in a second. What then disappears completely is the possibility of knowing that culture and worldview are already the scions of a world order which presumably is to be overcome. So scions, indicators of, or signs of. So what then disappears completely. Okay, yeah, this is interesting. In this state in which the not willing of goals and the cutting off of all expansive meditation take over or come into power, we then lose the ability to even see that culture and worldview are actually just the signs of a world order, which is supposedly supposed to be overcome, but really isn't. It's actually preserved. Culture and worldview do not lose their character by being brought into political service. So they become political objects, but they don't lose their character. They are culture and worldview, whether they are taken as values in themselves or as values for the people. In either case, meditation, if it is such at all, is entirely forced into the not willing of original goals. A not willing of the truth of beyng. So meditation basically loses its chutzpah, right? It's willing. It becomes neutered. It has no goal. It just becomes meditation. Yet only in that truth is a decision reached about the possibility and necessity of culture and worldview. So a not willing of the truth of beyng, but only in the truth of beyng is a decision reached about the possibility and necessity of culture and worldview. Only through the truth of beyng can we even understand whether culture and worldview are necessary to have and what their possibilities are. Super amazing paragraph.
Yeah, it is.
Like what?
Yeah. Yeah, there's,
Okay, so here's, I'm going to go back to this, okay?
But I wonder if we want to finish the section.
Yeah, please, let's do that.
I don't know.
Yep, let's do it.
Because I think,
Yeah, you know it's coming. Go ahead.
well, actually, I don't know what's coming,
Well,
but
yeah.
I feel like it's a
But
longer
you're right, it's going to be a
discussion.
big, you know that it would be a big thing.
So they're just 4 more paragraphs and they're short.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Let's go for it.
Only the most extreme decision out of and about the truth of beyng still produces a clarity. Otherwise, what remains is the persistent twilight of restorations and of disguises or even complete collapse.
The persistent twilight of restorations and of disguises.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes you just encounter someone who knows how to write. Go ahead.
Yeah. All these possibilities still presumably possess their lengthy prehistory in which they still remain unrecognizable and liable to be misinterpreted.
Okay. Only the most extreme decision out of and about the truth of beyng still produces. Okay. Our decision must be based in the truth of beyng. Otherwise, everything is this darkness of restorations and disguises and collapse. Right? Just culture, worldview, battles, things being restored and then falling away, disguises, dissemblance, and collapse. All these possibilities. So what does he mean? All these possibilities still presumably possess their lengthy prehistory. Yeah. I mean, all these possibilities, the possibility of restorations and of disguises and collapse, all the possibilities that emerge out of an abandonment of decision out of and about the truth of beyng. Okay?
Okay.
All the possibilities that exist when decision is not based in the truth of beyng
Right.
presumably possess their lengthy prehistory. So they've been happening for a long time. They're part of the first beginning in a way, in which they still remain unrecognizable and liable to be misinterpreted. So it's a long form thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yet from where does the plight of future philosophy come? Must not philosophy itself, in the act of beginning, first awaken this plight? Such plight stands on this side of distress and worry, which always roam merely in some corner of established beings and out of their, quote, truth.
And just of their truth, yeah.
And of their, quote, truth. On the other hand, this plight cannot be removed or even denied through the cheerfulness of presumed amusement over the, quote, wonders of, quote, beings. This plight, as the ground of the necessity of philosophy, is experienced through the shock in the jubilation of belonging to being, and that belonging in its intimating brings the abandonment by being into the open. Okay.
So where is philosophy supposed to come from? But not really where is it supposed to come from. Where does its plight come from? So where does it find its plight? Which is its meaning its necessary obligatory work. Where does philosophy find its calling? So it's not just how should philosophy be practiced. It's not a neutral, abstract question. It's like, what grounds philosophy as an absolutely necessary
Like, why must it happen?
Why must it happen? What's its
Amusement.
exactly. Must not philosophy itself in the act of beginning first awaken this plight? I mean, in a sense it must, yes. Such plight stands on this side of distress and worry, which always roam merely in some corner of established beings and of their truth. Yeah. So the plight that
Which plight?
Well, the plight that philosophy awakens.
Yeah.
Stands. It is not over there with distress and worry.
Yeah.
That are just roaming around in some corner of established beings and of their truth.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Of what's truth to them.
Yeah.
That's not where philosophy is going to find its plight. On the other hand, this plight cannot be removed. So this plight of philosophy cannot be done away with or denied through the cheerfulness of presumed amusement over the wonders of beings, right? So, wow, isn't life fascinating and beautiful and wonderful? Let's do philosophy.
So feel that.
Yeah, he's brutal. Okay.
Okay, so then what is it? Let's see, does he
This
say?
plight, as the ground of the necessity of philosophy, is experienced. This is where we find the plight, the calling, the necessity of philosophy, the Esmus Sein of philosophy, is experienced through the shock in the jubilation. So it's a jubilation that comes with shock of belonging to being. And that belonging in its intimating, so what that belonging intimates, brings the abandonment by being into the open. So we belong to being, and we are shocked and jubilated by that. But that belonging indicates to us how deeply the abandonment by being has occurred.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, cool. That didn't quite, I thought it was going to like reveal a little more about that paragraph. I'm not sure.
Wait, what I said or what he said?
What he said.
What do you mean? Yeah, keep.
Well, I thought it was.
Talk more.
I just thought. I thought by going on, he was going to shed more light on this idea of
culture and worldview and political vow.
And not willing.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I feel like he maybe went on to a sort of a different thing. But why don't we go back to what you're going to say about that? Or, right? Maybe read. I would be into reading that paragraph one more time too, that big one where he really gets into that.
Yeah. What characterizes this direction of decision?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Let's read it again. What characterizes this direction of decision
is not the technologizing of, quote, culture and the imposition of a, quote, worldview, but is the fact that, quote, culture and, quote, worldview become resources of a battlefield technology for the sake of a will that no longer wills any goal. For the preservation of the people is never a possible goal, but is only a condition of the setting of a goal. If the condition turns into something unconditioned, however, then what comes to power is the not willing of goals, the cutting off of all expansive meditation. What then disappears completely is the possibility of knowing that, quote, culture and, quote, worldview are already the scions of a world order which presumably is to be overcome. Quote, culture and, quote, worldview do not lose their character by being brought into political service, whether they are taken as values, quote, in themselves, unquote, or as values, quote, for the people. In either case, meditation, if it is such at all, is entirely forced into the not willing of original goals, i.e. a not willing of the truth of beyng. Yet only in that truth is a decision reached about the possibility and necessity of, quote, culture and, quote, worldview. Okay, so I feel like I'm starting to get it more. But I'd love you in a way to just sort of parse it. Cause like I'm just trying to like, where I get a little stuck is like, if the condition turns into something unconditioned, well, I mean, to me, this makes me think of canceling events being canceled. I'm thinking of my LA show being canceled.
Talk on, man. What?
Well, I'm not.
Why does it make you think of that? I'd love to hear more. What?
The not willing of goals, I guess, is of.
Yes, we're slowly heading in the same direction.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you talk about your art show being canceled last time?
I'm not sure.
Well,
I don't think
quickly.
I did.
Reiterate quickly. Go ahead.
So I was very excited because I got into with another artist. We're accepted into Spring Break Art Fair in LA, which is exciting.
It's not an art fair linked with the spring break that colleges take where everybody gets drunk.
Yes.
It's called Spring Break Art Fair.
You're right.
Right?
So yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It's linked. It's a satellite fair of Frieze, and
it's a very well established fair for emerging artists.
Yeah, and it's sort of the perfect place for me right now.
Yes.
So I was excited. I've been doing
You're going to do it with a curator and another artist. You spent a lot of time. You got admitted, yeah? Go ahead.
Yeah, we got admitted. And it's like the only fair in LA to do that isn't like for big galleries and that's still within, I would say, the real like art world circuit. Mm-hmm. So it's like sort of the perfect fair. So then there were fires in LA, which obviously sucked. And it took them quite a while to finally email and accept us. And in the same email of acceptance, they sent out a poll asking if we wanted to do it, if we wanted to do a virtual show, if we wanted to just cancel it altogether. And then it just went on this process, and the show is canceled.
And so after they asked for the input
feedback,
on the poll, it took them another week.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you're now about 2.5 weeks away from when the fair is supposed to happen.
Exactly.
And they finally sent out an email saying, we have decided to cancel the fair.
Yeah. And we're doing a virtual show, but whether or not that's just sort of,
which is a joke.
Whatever. Yeah.
I've been doing a virtual show for 20 years. Trust me, it's a joke.
I know.
Go ahead.
I know. Yeah, that's exactly sort of actually like it's a sort of disrespect for virtual shows, actually. Whatever. So it was all the other art fairs went forward.
Right.
And this art fair is it's New York based. It's very small art world, very politically correct. And it's the only one that was canceled. All the other fairs are going forward in LA. This is the only one canceled. So I guess it made me think about this sort of not willing of goals. And I haven't quite fully, like I said, parsed it out, but it just feels like...
So hold on, though, because I think what you need to make clear is that it was canceled.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the description of why it was canceled.
Yeah.
That felt a little lame.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm going to use.
Yeah.
Which is that, I didn't read the email, but do you want to tell?
They had a few different reasons, but my sense
it was like
is
a web of reasons.
Yeah, there were tons of reasons. Climate change. Yes.
Suffering.
Yes. And I think
people
suffering. I think the tipping point was just they did not feel it was an appropriate time to do an art fair in LA.
It's too soon.
Since it was
that
too
kind
soon.
of thing. It's insensitive. It was very woke. It was very touchy-feely.
Very.
And those are the words I'm going to use.
Yes. Very.
Okay. It was very woke.
Yes.
I guess I'm just going to use that word.
Yeah.
Woke in the sense of it was very we need to put sensitivity, consideration, pity, caring, in a way, grieving, recognition before self-interest, action, the show must go on, those kind of sentiments.
Yeah, or just giving LA artists an opportunity to show and sell their work is what what people Freeze. That was Freeze's reason for continuing. They said,
yes, we
don't want to take away from the artists or the people who like to go to the art fair. Right. We don't want to take it away and just make it even worse, because that just is continuing the aftermath of the fires.
Decimation.
Yeah.
Just more destruction.
Yeah.
As if the art fair got burned down too, but
exactly.
It didn't.
Yeah.
So in other words, the other art fairs took a more let's resurrect.
Yes. Let's
move forward. Let's raise out of the ashes as soon as possible and make art let's make art in the face of this destruction as a creative act.
Yes.
Right? Whereas your art fair took a very let's empath with that destruction and be destroyed ourselves.
Yes.
To show our solidarity with the destroyed.
Yes.
So we destroy ourselves.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. That's very good. Thank you that's exactly right. And I was going to kind of say that myself. This is why I brought up liberalism. And I was struggling to clarify what I meant by that. But when we get here into this, so I think we need let's get a little more contextualization. I think that art fair contextualization was really good. I think we have to go ahead and talk about what's happening politically right now.
Sure.
A little bit.
Yeah. It's been
we're in
crazy week.
We're in week 3, maybe or 4. Week 3 of Trump's presidency. I don't
know.
And don't need to say that things are happening fast and
everyone agrees.
Wild and big changes occurring. I think that my view of it at this point is that what's happened, however you feel about what's happening and whichever side you favor, just me looking objectively at the scenario and what's going on is that we have, on the Trump side, we have super fierce, active, objective-driven, mission-driven activity. Whether you like what he's doing or not, he's taking every single day, right? Mm-hmm. Strong actions. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the Democrats are left kind of they're just kind of complaining, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, they're complaining. They're not really putting forth substantive complaints, I would say. They're more like attacking the character of Musk. They're attacking the technocrats. They're attacking they're using words like techno-fascists and coup and takeover and Elon Hitler. They're kind of doing a lot of ad hominem stuff, to be honest, because I don't think they've quite formulated their oppositional talking points yet. So we have, on one side, we have a lot of just really robust action. And it's all being taken, on the Trump side, in the name of, I have to say, the preservation of the people.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the way the messaging is working.
That's the messaging.
Trump says all day long, we need to get government working for the American people. We need to save America. We need to save American jobs. We need to save America from crime. We need to save America from fentanyl. We need to save America from illegal immigrants. We need to save America from government overreach. We need to save America from bureaucratic excess, from government waste, from countries taking advantage. You know what I mean? It's just like, but it's save America. America first, save America. So the preservation of the people is a condition for the setting of goals.
Oh, yeah.
What's his goal vis-a-vis Mexico? What's his goal vis-a-vis Canada? What's his goal vis-a-vis USAID? Vis-a-vis immigration, vis-a-vis fentanyl, vis-a-vis crime, vis-a-vis government waste, right? I mean, he has all these goals, but it's all based on the preservation of the people. That's how he talks about it, okay? Again, however you feel about it. And now on the other side, whatever is going on. I don't know what the Democrats, I think, just haven't really, and by their own admission, they haven't figured out what to do. But
yeah, it's a lot to
it's a lot to deal with.
It's like, where do you even start?
Yeah, granted, it's like, I
mean, you said earlier today, you were like, I don't even know where I would start.
Oh, I said it. I mean, I don't have any advice I don't have any advice for them because it's very confounding and very hard to figure out. Okay. So, however, I think the interesting thing is that this new Trump dynamism emerges out of 4 years, and in a sense longer, of, I would say, something different. It's different. Different than like what Trump is doing. And so if you think back 4 years before Trump, and in a way 10, 12 years before Trump, because in a way the first Trump presidency really didn't exist. It was Obama for 8 years, and then this Trump hiccup, which not much happened, and there was only COVID, and then there was Biden. So it was like literally like 16 years, Anyhow, now let's read that and what we know of in terms of liberalism and where liberalism is headed, which is where liberalism headed is where the Democrat Party is right now. So let's read this. What characterizes this direction of decision is not the technologizing of culture and the imposition of a worldview. So it's not that culture has become the internet, or that culture has become technologized, or that a worldview is being imposed, because worldviews are always being imposed all over the place. The fact that it's culture, what characterizes this direction is the fact that culture and worldview become resources of a battlefield technology for the sake of a will that no longer wills any goal. Now, I think to me, that the will that no longer wills any goal. I think that your example of spring break is interesting. And I think if you think about the Biden presidency, or those years of Biden, and before, I mean, it's like there's something about just like I don't know how it is, but it's like there was a will that no longer willed any goal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the spring break. People who run spring break, it's clear how that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of gave up on the goal, and so what did they do when they decided that they were going to be a will that no longer wills any goal? Culture and worldview became resources in a battlefield technology, right? Mm-hmm. Which was like, we need to formalize, technologize this cultural and worldview position of empathy for the fire victims and absorb that and just simply will nothing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We need to not will anything, because will itself is destructive, right?
Yeah.
And so then we have, for the preservation of the people is never a possible goal. It was only conditional. If the condition turns into something unconditioned, so spring break curators, and I would say the Biden administration, abandoned the idea of preserving the people.
Yeah.
So that became unconditioned.
Yeah.
And in the presence of that unconditionedness, what came to power is the not willing of goals. The cutting off of all expansive meditation. And I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. I'm going to put my foot forward here, and then it's going to end up in my mouth. But where liberalism has really ended up is in the cutting off of expansive meditation.
Yeah.
It stopped trying to think outside its own rules.
Yeah.
And just became the not willing of goals.
Yeah.
It just started canceling everything.
Mm-hmm. Can I?
Yes, and I think the rest is like, I mean, we can keep going, but yes, please.
Well, I do want to keep going,
yeah,
but I feel like it's really a messaging and clarity question, right? Because I feel like let's say that the liberals, their goal is the preservation. Let's say it felt like, and I'm not super in touch with it, but it felt like there just wasn't really action being taken. So like if you're saying, let's say like there are black areas that have a lot of violence, a lot of gang activity, but let's just, right? That's like an issue.
I think so, yeah.
So like, or let's say the preservation of the people. So like, let's help the black people. So then we could say like, okay, so something we could actually do as a goal is go into those spaces and help. Right? Like that seems like actually an action step.
Yes.
In service, or, on condition of trying to help the black people.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of what is missing right now from liberalism. Perhaps it's just that like you can say all the sort of big stuff you want and say there's racism and say there's this and there's that, but like what are the action steps that you're going to take?
Yes.
And how are you going to actually just make them happen?
Yes.
And that's what's been astonishing about Trump coming in, is he had the goal he had, which was the preservation of all the American people, and he's come in and he has done things that logically, according to his logic, do seem to do the things that he's saying he wants them to do. And there are actions he's taking. There are laws he's passing. There are people he's moving. I mean, he's just like doing all these things.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's where I would say to Democrats, like, that's where you need to start, is like proposing the actions like the list of actions that need to be taken to make what you want to have happen, as opposed to saying racism.
Well, yes.
Saying everyone's racist and everyone else is stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And I think that we can hook that in with, really, I would say what liberalism has ended up being is what the actions they take is they're continually just trying to preserve a worldview and a culture in this in order to win this battlefield of technology. And they aren't really willing any goals anymore. They're just trying to control the culture.
How people think and speak.
Exactly. And control the worldview.
Yeah.
And so they're terribly focused, tragically focused, I would say, on defining the narrative and establishing the rules of empathy and engagement and propriety. And that it's typified in the phrase virtue signaling. So virtue signaling is not that you've done anything. It's just that you spend a lot of time sending out signals that you are virtuous.
Yeah, exactly.
But you haven't actually done anything. Now, so it's like, so what he says here is, what happens is that this, what comes to power is the not willing of goals.
Yeah, wait, okay, can we read that? If the condition turns into something unconditioned, that's like where I'm stuck. So
let me read the definition of unconditioned.
Oh yeah, you had a good, and that phrase you had earlier, how did you define condition? It was a necessary precursor or something?
Yes, a necessary antecedent.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was helpful.
So I would say in general that what liberalism let happen is the preservation of the American people became unconditioned. It no longer served as a necessary antecedent to the setting of goals. Goals were set for different reasons than preserving the American people. They were set for furthering a culture view, furthering a worldview, controlling the culture, controlling what is thought, controlling what is true, controlling what is said, preserving. Now, I would say, any liberal would say, no, we were trying to preserve aspects of the American people. So we were fighting for trans rights. We were fighting for black rights. We were fighting for women's rights. But those are just subsets of the American people. And so the preservation of the people became unconditioned. It lost its, and which is why Trump's messaging is so powerful right now. He has stopped talking about subsets of the population and is now just talking about the American people, the American nation. And so he's changed the narrative in that way. And instead of the not willing of goals, he is the willing of goals. The guy is all one giant willing of goals. So we see that what Heidegger is talking about abstractly here kind of play out right now, I would say. So, and I would say, and a lot of people are going to laugh at this, but I would say, this phrase, it says here, in either case, meditation, if it is such at all, is entirely forced into the not willing of original goals, which again is, I think, where liberalism found itself, a not willing of the truth of beyng. So, and in fact, if you look at this phrase, so if the condition turns into something unconditioned, then what comes to power is the not willing of goals, the cutting off of all expansive meditation. I'm going to say it right here. Trump has brought expansive meditation to the situation. what he's doing is so out of the box. It's so different. It's so unexpected. It's so expansive that I'm sorry, it merits the moniker of expansive meditation. A lot of people think it's the stupidest, craziest, weirdest crap in the world, but it is definitely expansive. Now, one thing you don't know that happened 5 hours ago. Okay? For instance,
It's crazy how fast this stuff is happening.
I know.
Gosh.
the first world leader that Trump invited to the White House was Benjamin Netanyahu. They had a conversation. They had a press conference about 4 or 5 hours ago. And Trump said, I'm proposing that America takes over Gaza. We're going to...
Oh my
No,
God.
listen. It's insane. He's like,
That is insane.
we are going to go in there and basically take it over. We're going to knock all the buildings down. We're going to get rid of all the bombs. We're going to get rid of all the terrorists. We're going to rebuild it, and we're going to turn it into a giant enterprise zone we're going to basically take it over. So you, Israel, don't even have to think about it. Like,
Wow.
basically, which is
That's
basically saying this: you Palestinians and you Israelis, you don't get along.
Yeah.
So having the Israelis policing and controlling Gaza is a nightmare. Obviously, it's not working.
Yeah.
So Trump's like, so you know what? It's like you have two kids.
Yeah.
They won't stop fighting.
Yeah.
So you say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put you in this room and you in this room, and you're not ever going to speak. There's no reason for you to speak.
Yeah.
There's no reason that Israel needs to be in control of Gaza, and there's no reason that Gaza needs to be fighting against Israel. We, the Americans, now Trump is a builder.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where he comes from. Trump he's a construction guy.
Yeah.
He's a real estate mogul.
Yeah.
He builds real estate. So he looks at Gaza and he says, you know what? Get the Israelis out of there. We're moving the Americans in. So they're going to set up a military base.
Wow.
And they're just going to basically take it over.
Wow.
Now, if that is not expansive meditation,
That's really great. That's definitely thinking on the box, man.
and you know what? Netanyahu was standing there and the press was like, what do you think, Mr. Netanyahu? He's like, I think Mr. Trump has put forward a very interesting idea, and I think it's really worth considering. And you know what? It's an incredible idea.
Yeah.
It is such an incredible idea. Now, a lot of the Palestinians are probably not going to like it at all.
Yeah.
But you know what? They don't like what they have now either.
Yeah.
It's at least an idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about expansive meditation. Talk about the willing of a goal. Talk about finally somebody putting forward an idea rather than just incessant negotiation, mediation, return to war that is actually that might actually result in something. Anyhow, yeah.
Okay, so I'm still just trying to get my mind around this. If the condition turns into something unconditioned, however, then what comes to power is the not willing of goals.
Great.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so let's say we take the preservation of the people as
Okay.
the conditioned.
Right.
Okay, so it's conditioned, or it's a condition. Now, let's take the Jewish people as an example. If you think about the preservation of the Jewish people, or let's take the American people. If you think about the preservation of the American people as a condition, then you're putting forth the idea that there are things that preserve the American people, and there are things that do not. So you're participating in a limitation or a demarcation of everything into this goes over here into this pile, which is that it preserves the American people.
And is that a possible goal, or am I now going too far?
No, you're going too far.
Okay.
Just think about the preservation of the American people as a condition.
Okay.
If the preservation of the American people is a condition, then there are things that preserve the American people, and there are things that do not preserve the American people. That's a position you have. Now, if the preservation of the American people becomes unconditioned, then in effect you have no opinion about what does or does not preserve the American people.
Okay.
You've given up on that as a action, or as a condition that you are trying to maintain. So that's a good way to think about condition. Think about condition. I have a condition. It's a weak heart. My third bivalve ventricle is stenotic, and so I can't. That's how we talk about conditions. Well, that's a sustained state of affairs. In a way, preservation of the American people is a state of affairs one is trying to sustain. Well, there are, if it's going to stay as a condition, then there are things that sustain it, and there are things that do not. Continuing to eat bacon and not exercise will sustain that condition. Exercising and eating right might improve that condition, but that's a condition. If it becomes unconditioned, then there's no improving it or making it worse. It's unconditioned. And so, take the preservation of the American people as an example. If you really don't have any mindset or any opinion about what will or will not preserve the American people, it's not even a concern of yours. It's an unconditioned statement or state of things. Then you end up, as it says here, right?
The not willing of goals.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because you need a condition to set a goal, and
You
if
do.
you don't have a condition, then
you're
you're not willing a goal.
that's right.
Yeah. So I guess
So then what you do is you don't will goals.
yeah.
And I mean, I think the preservation of the American people is an interesting example, especially where, in my view, liberalism ended up, which is that we don't really have goals for the preservation of the American people because we can't really conditionally. We haven't really.
Right.
We're not really thinking of the preservation of the American people as a conditional.
Yeah.
So what we should really be doing is not willing goals.
Yeah. Or that's what we are doing, is not willing goals.
What we were doing prior to
We're
Trump.
doing, yes.
So,
Although, I don't know.
and you're worried that we're getting too political. I mean, I think we're just trying to use an example
Yeah.
of a political trend.
Yeah.
We're not stating any opinions. I mean, I think, all right. I mean, I think maybe we are.
We have our criticisms of liberalism, obviously, but like anyone like sentient now should have those criticisms too, because obviously it was a really failed platform and run. And I think part of what's frustrating, I mean, we were just talking about is that the Democratic National Convention was all like saying that they ran a great campaign and all that stuff. And so you're just like, have you not learned anything?
Right. And I mean, that's absolutely right. And I mean, even the liberal press now is essentially accusing liberalism and the Democratic Party of non-expansive meditation.
Yeah, totally.
That's a great phrase for what they're really saying about themselves and about each other, is that we've got to meditate more expansively on what happened, what's going on, what we have to offer.
Yeah.
And what our priorities are and how they line up with the American people. We need more expansive meditation.
Yeah.
That's really what they're saying.
Yeah, that's right.
To themselves.
Yeah.
And they're right to say that.
Yes.
They are absolutely right to say that. So, yeah.
And I think it was just, I don't know, just seeing it again in action, just not happening is just like, oh my God. Just like, I don't know. I don't, like, what more do they need to realize they need to change than like,
Yeah.
Anyways.
We shall see. Anyhow, exciting. Interesting section, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing more to say about it. Any more?
How does it relate to anxiety? But I don't know. Maybe that's a little
like,
far.
are we really gonna? Well, okay. I mean, there was a little section in there.
Oh yeah, there's something about worry, distress, and worry. Is that it?
Yeah. So, I mean, well, first of all, I would say this: When culture and worldview become resources of battlefield technology for the sake of a will that no longer wills any goal. Right?
Yeah.
That is very anxiety-inducing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how would you respond to the idea that anxiety is actually
Liberalism?
the coming to power of the not willing of goals as the result of one's own preservation becoming unconditioned?
Okay, you have to say that one more time.
Anxiety is the result of the coming to power of the not willing of goals as a result of one's self-preservation becoming unconditioned. So if you go backward in that, what you learn is that, well, if your self-preservation has lost its conditions, as in you no longer really understand what contributes to your self-preservation and what does not contribute to your self-preservation. And I don't mean what kind of actions or choices, but I mean you've lost touch with your, what Heidegger calls instincts. Okay?
Yeah.
That part of you that has been surviving and thriving for you, in a way forcing you to survive. That part of you, that all of you, that is self-preservation as a condition, right? If you've lost that self-preservation as a condition, and self-preservation has become unconditioned, and you've lost touch with that condition that is self-preservation. Condition in the sense of the heart problem, right? Self-preservation as a medical condition. And then what comes into power and has power over you is what Heidegger calls a not willing of goals, which really means you lose your goal-driven mentality. You stop having goals and you start becoming, in a way, blown around, thrown around, indecisively manipulated by vague nothingness, right? Your expansive meditation is cut off, and you become the victim of anxiety. Which is interesting to then link anxiety with liberalism, because they're in a way generated from the same engine. Preservation becoming unconditioned. The not willing of goals coming into power. Expansive meditation being cut off. Right? Culture and worldview becoming resources of a battlefield technology for the sake of a will that no longer wills any goals. Right?
Yeah.
So it seems very linked up to me.
Yeah, it does. I agree. Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah, I think that's good, right?
Totally. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we can continue on that next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Right?
Yes. Have a good night.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for the Leaping Choya podcast. For more information, visit leapingchoya.com and be sure and follow us on socials. Until next time.